it, and I've had a much I'm much more empowered to be myself now.
Well, I admire that.
Oh no, it's cool, dude. Let me tell you, it took a long time.
I'm begging anybody out there, before you go and get surgery, before you walk into these hair clubs to someplace, I'm telling you right now, I am $20,000 in the hole, and 10 years of stress, the last 3, an absolutely horrifying existence of stress and pain. And I can promise you, the stress of this hairpiece is 1,000 times more than I would have ever felt if I had just been confident with who I am, dealt with the fact that these are the cards I've been dealt, and deal with them, and just shave my head. And honestly, like Spencer said, not everyone's there, but that's where I'm at.
And now something completely different.
Good afternoon. I'm speaking to you live just outside.
I like to think balding is just God's way of saying, now let's see you get laid.
Is it true that if you don't use it, you lose it?
What I'd really like to do is put the greatness of this man in perspective.
The hair loss community has a lot to be thankful for, having you as a spokesperson.
You mean you just call this guy up?
About life and about reality?
And now, America's #1 reality radio show for men. Live from Los Angeles, it's Spencer Kobren's The Bald Truth.
Hey guys, welcome to the show. 888-659-3727 is a toll-free number. Thank you so much for holding on and hanging out. I know we are. Actually, tonight we're only 6 minutes late, which is not bad. Guys who are holding on the line, thank you so much for calling in. There is one line still open if anyone wants to try to get in. That's 888-659-3727. And, of course, the UK number is 0203-3724-683. You can try that number as well. If you are new to the broadcast, don't know who I am and who the guy to your left is, well, I'm a consumer advocate for men and women dealing with hair loss. I am the author of The Bald Truth and The Truth About Women's Hair Loss. Also happen to be the founder of the American Hair Loss Association and the International Alliance of Hair Restoration Surgeons. This sounds obnoxious, but, I'm writing an article for a journal, and it's actually for the Hair Transplant Journal, Hair Transplant Forum International, which is their official journal. I don't know if it's actually going to get published, even though I was asked to write it, because I'm being very straightforward and candid with the industry to kind of guide them, I think, in the right direction to help to change the trajectory of this incredibly dangerous field. What I've learned in my 20 plus years in this industry is that it's pretty perverse, but the better you do, the more you actually accomplish in this world, the more annoyed people become. And it's unfortunate, and it is perverse, but that is the reality and the nature of the game, and especially this game. Oh, my God, it was a big huh.
It was.
Are you okay?
Yeah.
Okay. That was on camera.
It was.
All right.
It's okay.
All right. Now you're freaking me out.
No, it's all right.
All right. Our phone number is 888-659-3727. But the bottom line is both Joe and I are here to provide you guys with help, to provide you guys with hope, to provide you guys with the truth. Again, the truth pisses people off. Now, I've been used to being in the crosshairs for telling the truth. I've been used to being in the firing line for telling the truth. And I think the reason why more people don't tell the truth is because they don't want to have to deal with that bullshit. But, you guys need to know it. So that's what we're here for. Again, the phone number is 888-659-3727. Joe, do you want to take a phone call? Do you need to take a break?
I need to take a break. Switch back to me in just a moment. Got an issue.
Okay. All right. Let's see. There's something going on with Joe. I got to know what's going on. Now I'm really concerned. But anyway, guys, I'll take your phone calls. Phone number is 888-659-3727. Let's see who this is, and I'm sure we'll be able to pot you up in just about a second. Hey, man, you're on the air. Who's this, and where are you calling from?
Hi, this is Louis Cate in Alexandria, Virginia.
Louis, how are you, man? What's going on?
Pretty good. Well, I'm a little bit nervous, but I contacted Dr. Cole because I had Dr. John Cole, and because I told him I was going to try to get on your show, and I asked him if there was anything he wanted me to mention, and he said something about follicular unit extraction Europe. It's apparently, he's saying it's the first scientific meeting that invites patients to attend. Also, he says something about the collaboration between FUE, that's follicular unit extraction Europe, and IAHRS. I'd be lying if I told you I do all those letters.
I don't even know what he's talking about.
He says it's the only way a patient can locate a safe doctor to perform hair transplant.
No, listen. I appreciate the fact that you said you were calling in. He wanted you to talk about the meeting, but yeah, we are combining forces, the IHRS and FUE Europe, to really put on a conference that we believe we're going to kind of put the politics aside. We're going to provide an atmosphere where physicians who really want to learn how to provide the best possible service for their patients, provide real FUE, hair transplant surgery, not just turnkey bullshit, not just putting up a shingle and saying they know what they're doing, but really learn how to do this well. We want to provide that opportunity, and also an opportunity for old comers and newcomers alike to come to a conference that is really going to help them to better get a handle of what consumers are dealing with and what hair loss sufferers are dealing with, and the aftermath of all the bad work that's being done out there. There's a lot of doctors who go to the bigger conferences or the main conferences who, they have very important agendas. And I will say that, the biggest conference obviously is the ISHRS, and they're a great educational body. But the thing is, it's very democratic, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but they allow just about anyone who is willing to present, if time allows, to present, whether they are presenting something that's really going to better the field or something that is going to continue to hinder progress or teach young physicians how to do things the wrong way. There was a video that I saw today that was sent to me by an IHRS member of this African-American guy who got shellacked down in South Florida by a relatively new physician who, she looks like she's in her maybe mid-30s, if that, relatively new to the field, and it was being shown off as though it was state-of-the-art hair transplantation, when in fact, I haven't seen work like this since maybe the late 80s. And so, these very people, these same people who are doing work like that, these are the people that are going to these other conferences and maybe learning how to do things the wrong way, or not paying attention to the guys who are doing it the right way, or more concerned about just the marketing aspects of the conference and how to kind of make a buck in this industry, as opposed to taking the time to really learn how to do it right, listen to the stories of patients who've been fucked up, including celebrities. And so when John was telling me about FUE Europe and saying that they weren't being endorsed by the other main organization, and asked me if I wanted to be involved, I was like, yeah, well, absolutely. The IHRS will not only endorse FUE Europe, but we will make it an event that this industry has never seen.
Huh. The other 2 points I wanted to make, they're brief, Spencer, is that you have given me a new goal in life that I never had before. From the beginning of your show, now that I heard the beginning of your show, my goal is to become more annoying.
that actually is an interesting goal, because
I never heard that before. And the third point is this: I don't know if you know anything about this. I'm just flicking channels, and something called HIM came on, and it was some kind of
Yeah, I actually think that these companies. There's another company called Keeps, and the biggest the one that's doing the most advertising is Hims, and essentially what they're kind of like a one-stop shop for everything men related, like hair loss and impotence and stuff like that. Sexual dysfunction, and essentially what they're doing is they're putting together, FDA approved generic drugs. And they have a doctor that you can get a prescription from, and they will do like an online consultation. And these guys are essentially buying these customers finasteride for hair loss. They're buying finasteride, maybe a minoxidil concoction, and some vitamins. Personally, I think that I don't think a lot of guys understand what they're necessarily buying. Because people don't necessarily put the name Propecia and finasteride together. So a lot of guys who are taking this don't realize they're actually taking Propecia. But the good news is, at the very least, I think that they're giving young guys an opportunity to save their hair where they may not have taken that opportunity if they just went online and read about Propecia and went to their doctor, because they would have been scared shitless. So it's kind of repackaged like it's something new, when in fact all it is finasteride.
Oh, that's good to know. Well, look, thanks a lot. I'll let somebody else get on, but I have to go out there and get more annoying.
You know what? Let me tell you something. You make noise in this world. You actually do something that makes sense and that helps people. It pisses so many fucking people off. It's unbelievable. And believe me, I've been dealing with this for well over 20 years. And Joe is an unfortunate recipient of trolls and all kinds of bullshit. But the reality is, if you're not pissing somebody off, you're not doing it right.
Okay.
So, all right, man. Thanks for the call.
Thanks a lot. Thanks for your show.
You got it, man. Spencer. Take care. Phone number is 888-659-3727. Are you okay, Joe? Okay, let me pot you up. It looked like you were just about to have a heart attack.
Well, I was. You look at the message I sent you, you'll see why. It was kind of stupid though. It comes down to an issue of being a technical limitation that prevented something from happening. I'll say that much. But it's all good. So.
Oh, okay. Well, it doesn't seem that terrible.
No, it's not. It's not. Just kind of it's like when you're in a rush to get things done. It's like I was getting all this stuff going on at once while we're also about to start, and it's like,
tell me about it, dude.
I didn't mean that to happen. Anyway.
Guys, by the way, we're doing a live show, so the guys that just hung up because the caller wanted to talk about this conference. Not always here just to answer hair loss questions, which was what we want to do. But there's a lot going on in the field that you guys need to know about, which is part of your education and part of what we do here at the Bald Truth. So call us if you want us to stay on now. Otherwise, I'm going to go. What time is it? Oh, it's 5 o'clock. It is happy hour.
It really is.
Yeah. So, I mean, if we get no calls, I'm out, and we will just put a podcast together, and that's it. We're out. So the phone number is 888-659-3727. Give us a call. I'll wait a couple of minutes, and if those phones don't light up, then we are gone.
I will kind of fill some of this airtime with. I'm asking. The guy just called in. He was saying something about the conference, right? The FUE Europe conference.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Didn't I just say that?
Yes, you did.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much. Yeah. No, I'm looking forward to that, and I'll be making a video to put on this YouTube channel for other people to understand what's going on. But I'm pretty excited about it because it seems to be a couple things going on. First, I think it's the first, potentially the first organized event where people from across the industry spectrum are coming together to help put this thing on, which is awesome. We got different forum people that are involved. We got different doctors that are involved. We got different organizations that are coming together to make this thing happen for one case or for one reason and one reason only, and that is to truly better the field as a whole, not to better individuals. And and to better the consumer and their education, what to expect from a procedure, and to I think that the angle on this is really unique, including the fact that it's the first organization that has a meeting where part of it is actually open to the public. So any of you guys in the UK or anyone that wants to go to the UK and see what this thing is about, we haven't got the specifics outlined yet, but we're going to have at least a few hours on one day open to the public for Q&A sessions. Some people will be talking about what you should look for. Some people with bad hair transplants will be coming in to tell you their experience and the importance of research, and to show you the importance of research because of the fact that they didn't have the research that most people should have. And I'm excited by it.
Well, I think what's really, and I'm excited by everything you just said, obviously, and I agree with the direction that I think everyone is going in. But I do still see a lot of unintended politics that kind of need to be removed from the equation. Oh, yeah. We need to forget about what other organizations may feel. We need to forget about what some person on some board of governors thinks, this is just some sort of a political move. There's no politics involved in this. This is 100% a case of just wanting to put something together that actually makes sense. Again, I'm writing this article, and, a quote that I use from Albert Einstein is, "Bureaucracy is the death of any achievement." And while I do believe there is a place for bureaucracies, and usually that has to do with, I don't know, if you need to put a huge conference together with thousands of people and you don't want to have to worry about asking everybody's opinion, you get 3 or 4 people to make the decisions, and that's great, But when it comes to really making life-changing decisions, choices that can profoundly affect the lives of thousands of vulnerable people, then, what is the qualifications that some of these people who are in this hierarchy actually have? I mean, they're smart people, they're educated people, but there's a big difference between being educated, learned, and qualified. And I would say that the vast majority of people who are in these positions are not qualified to make the decisions that they're making because they just don't know what they don't know. They're doctors. Great. They do their thing. Some of these guys are good hair transplant surgeons. A lot of them are really shitty hair transplant surgeons, but they just jockey for position to be in this position of manufactured power. And the decisions that they've been making, sadly, have been harming the public unintentionally. Yeah. But all out of fear. These are fear-based decisions to somehow maintain some sort of made-up control that doesn't even really exist. I don't even understand it.
But, and it goes even further than that. Made-up control of what?
Exactly.
There's nothing being controlled.
So they want to control some sort of a message. The message is weak. It doesn't work. They want to control what? Their party every year? That's great. They can have the party every year. But part of that party should be, hey, let's collaborate with people who know what the fuck they're doing to get us to the end point so that we don't have to worry about paying for our kids' tuition in 10 years because we're going to be boxed out of this industry because the plastic surgeon down the block is going to hire a bunch of techs and buy a machine. That's what they should really be worrying about.
Good times. Yeah. It's speaking of the party, by the way, the parties are outstanding, but it kind of ends there.
Well, I think there's a lot that they do that is really beneficial, to be honest with you, and I think this is important. I just think there has to be more emphasis on education and less emphasis on bureaucracy and bullshit. And they need to open their doors and open their minds and say, look, and again, I keep referring to this paper because I don't even know I honestly don't know if it's going to be published. even though I was asked specifically to write it, I was also asked if I that it's going to go to an editorial board and I should play ball a little bit. I think it's in the readers and the organization's best interest for me to be completely candid with them, to provide them with an education that they have just never been provided with before. That's what medical journals and these type of journals should, be all about. Essentially, it's an op-ed piece from someone in the trenches who knows every aspect of this field and could explain, especially to the new guys, that, hey, you know what? Maybe you guys are doing something wrong. And if you really want to create influence, then you have to do things differently. That's all. That's what it's all about. Phone number is and they probably think I'm beating them up every week. What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to empower them, embolden them, give them the opportunity. They have the numbers and the strength to do so much, yet they're sitting on their hands, allowing their own livelihoods to be destroyed. Forget about the patient. That kills me the most, but they're allowing their own livelihoods to be destroyed. They're all in a fucking panic. They're like Chicken Little. You know, the fucking sky is falling. Why is the sky falling? Well, I don't know. Maybe because of a collective inaction that was essentially started 15 years ago.
Yeah, I'm going to write that one down. Collective inaction. I like that.
It's already written down, dude. But yeah, you can write it down again.
TM. Wait, .com. Hold on.
But
Damn it, you took it.
But that's exactly what it is. And when I speak to guys like Ricardo Mejia, and I bring his name up a lot because I've spoken to him several times, and he just is like, well, Spencer, if you could do this, why do you need the ISHRS? I'm doing it for the ISHRS and for the patient. I'm doing it so that you guys who are not part of what I do can benefit as well. You guys have the numbers. If I go out there and I bang my drum and I put my neck on the line, as I always do, and then somebody like yourself who doesn't want to support our message because you're too fucking scared to, then goes out and says, well, why aren't you a member of the IHRS? Oh, well, that guy, well, he's just some sort of a marketer. So then why does that message mean anything?
Yeah. Yeah.
So if you're going to undermine the message, don't ask me why we're not doing what we can do.
Guy in the chat room, FSK, says, Spencer, all these guys approaching hair transplant like pure business rather than having the patient in the forefront. If they did put the patient at the forefront, the business aspect would take care of itself. Bingo. That's exactly what we've been talking about. That's what we've been pushing. That's what I tell my clients. That's why I tell, basically anyone that comes to me asking for my input. That's what Spencer is talking about. I mean, it's just you get it. We get it. We don't see why it's not more of a common sense type of thing, but it's not.
And guys, hold on. I'm going to take your calls in 1 second, but it is not. And I'm going to give you an example. There's a guy that's been around for a long time, and he has a really old school marketing kind of, I don't know.
Platform.
Well, not a platform, but the way that they do marketing. And the person in charge of the marketing is extremely old school. So I got a call from this person. This was a while ago, talking about leads and all this lead generation and ROI and all this shit. And I'm just like, oh my God, it's never going to end. And this person telling me that they're really, they're essentially hurting because of all the competition out there. I said, you would not be hurting if you changed your message to, instead of having some unknown guy, quasi-celebrity, with his arms crossed and paying for Facebook advertising and being on Real Self with, I wish I would have done this before. I wish I would have, I wish I didn't wait so long. This is the best decision in my life. But talk about putting the patient first. To promote the fact that you are, one of a handful of clinics that are recommended by and accepted by the IHRS and the American Hair Loss Association. If you were to put that foot forward, you wouldn't be in the position that you're in today. And it's literally, it's like talking to Ricardo Mejia. These people just have these blank looks, and then essentially what they do is, you know what, we're gonna hire a social media expert. That's what we need. That's what we need to do. And they're going to work for us, and they're going to put out our social media, just like the ISHRS did. And then you see the bullshit that's out there. Let me tell you something, Doc.
Follicle Friday.
Let me tell you something, Doc. Any marketing experts that are working for you, personally, just for you, they wouldn't be working for you if they knew what the fuck they were doing, because they'd be working for themselves.
Well said.
Phone number is 888-659-3727. If they're any good at what they did, they'd be making some real money. Hey, who's this? You're on the air? And where are you calling from?
Hello.
Hey, man.
Hey, it's Angelo. What's up, Spence? What's up, Joe?
Angelo, what's happening, buddy?
From Chicago. How you doing?
Hey, I was watching the show last week, and I realized something you were talking about. When I originally went to my first doctor for my hair transplant, I was never a candidate for FUE, and I should have been passed on to somebody who does strip surgery right from the beginning.
100%.
Instead of
100%. If that's the case, if you know that's the case, and obviously I remember what we talked about in the program, it is, what is the word? Unconscionable? Unethical. Unconscionable. Unconscionable for anyone to say, you know what, they know. These guys fucking know. And if they don't know, they shouldn't be performing hair transplant surgery.
Well, but if they know, they don't want to pass up the money.
You know what? Just say, hey, look, I mean, fee splitting's illegal, but you scratch my back, I scratch yours. That's the way this works. Period. If he were to send you to a strip guy, I can guarantee you that strip guy would then send an FUE patient to this other guy. That's the way it works. And they could work out a deal. Wow. Hey, listen, anybody who's a strip candidate, I'm going to send to you. Anyone who's an FUE candidate, you send to me. That's how we get along in this world. That's how people really earn and make money in this world. And that's how, in the end, a guy like yourself wouldn't have gone through what you went through.
No, I wouldn't. Well, I might have had to do a second surgery, but I would have ended up way better with my results.
Well, here's the problem, and it's unfortunate, but if your first hair transplant is fucked up, while it could be repairable, you could just you'll never be in the position that you would have been in if you would have had a great hair transplant or a good hair transplant the first time. And that first surgery is critical. And yes, sadly, the second surgery is more critical if the first surgery doesn't go well. But, I mean, in most cases, I would say that every repair case that you see out there, as good as they look, as good as Joe looks, imagine what he would look like if the first two went well.
Exactly.
But here's what I'm thinking. It's so unfair to the patient for them to do it to them. And you know what? I'm not here to bum rap anybody, but it's not fair.
Well, and that's the whole point. Go ahead.
If you're thinking about the patient's best results, don't do something that's not going to end up that way.
Well, I'll say this, Angelo. I think that what I've learned over the years, and I know Spencer agrees with me on this, is that a lot of times these doctors think that they are doing the best thing for you. They're not. A lot of times they're not even thinking about alternatives that they may not offer. They think that this is what they can do. They think that they can do something that will make you happy, and they're not thinking about the alternatives because they think that what they've got in mind or what they offer is good enough and should make you happy. And I don't know what the details were between you and the doc when you first had this done. But I do agree that, in a case like yours, FUE probably wasn't the best idea moving forward, simply because you had such a large area to cover. You had these characteristics that just didn't, in my opinion, equal up to you being a solid FUE candidate from the start. And did the doctor really have that kind of opinion? I'd like to think no, because he did the procedure on you. And sometimes I like to give people the benefit of a doubt, and I'd like to think that he felt like he was doing what he thought was best for you, which is contrary to what I think was best for you and what you realize was best for you. But it is what it is. And, the great thing is you've had a second procedure based on the last photos that you sent that we reviewed on Rate My Hair Transplant a few weeks ago. You're on your way to having a nice result that I think that you'll probably be happy with. So the message here is don't beat yourself up over the first procedure, and don't let that kind of tarnish the end result that you might wind up getting from the second one. Right. Look on the bright side of this, okay? Because having a face that's framed, a hairline that you can brush, enough hair on top that you can style, and not a slick bald patch in the back, I think ultimately that's a win. And sure, you had to take one step, maybe too many, to get there, but it is what it is. You still wound up at your ultimate goal, and I think that focusing on the previous rather than the subsequent will only lead to negative thoughts, and that's not a good thing.
Right. But why I'm calling is not to just bum rap somebody, but to say how you guys, you and Spence, educated me to realize that I didn't get the right thing from the go. And that's so important for other people to listen and learn from other people's mistakes. And all I can say is you guys are great when it comes to stuff like that.
Well, listen, Angela, I really appreciate it, and we certainly want to get this message out there to as many people as we possibly can. And sadly, as far as getting competitively, as far as getting a message out there, I mean, because of all of different platforms, and because everyone has a different message, and because our message isn't necessarily sexy, sadly, the truth, and I've always said this, isn't sexy. While more people find our resources or my resources and Joe's resources than any other hair loss resources in the world, they usually don't tap into those resources until after they've been fucked up or lost money. And that's the sad part. Like, if you go online, you will find the American Hair Loss Association very quickly. But we don't give anybody a fix. We can't say that we're going to sit there and fix you. Guys want, and women, they want to be fixed. So what they do is they go on to the next search, and they find someone who claims to be able to fix them or sell them something that will fix them. And then they either lose their money or they become disfigured, and then they contact us. That's been the nature of the game from the very beginning. Even with the IHRS, because I made a conscious decision not to have online consultations, to make it easy for consumers to contact physicians who are part of the organization and to do an online consultation. There are many times that we will be found, and then people will go on to another website, not even an organization, but a website that provides free online consultations, because it's just, that's the way it is. People want, ease of use. They don't want to take the time to educate themselves. And, I wanted to create as many barriers. And doctors who are supporting the IHRS, I think most of them understand that. Some of them still don't. But as many barriers to a person having and actually signing on the dotted line for that surgery as possible. I wanted to make sure that every consumer had the best possible chance and the best possible education before they made a decision to have surgery. And sometimes, just by making it a little bit more difficult, where they would have to either click on a link or actually pick up the phone, as opposed to just filling out 100 forms online at the same time. can make all the difference in the world. We want to give people time to think. So, all right, Angela, listen.
Let me say something.
Yeah.
Let me say something to all the guys out there. All you bald-headed bastards like me need to listen to these two guys, and they won't steer you wrong.
Angela, man, thank you. Thanks a lot for the
that.
kind words. I really appreciate it. You take care.
And use that clip on the show.
We will. I will. I'll isolate that clip.
Thanks, buddy.
All right, thank you,
All right,
guys.
man. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Guys, phone number is 888-659-3727. That's 888-659-3727. Yeah, guys, we have some lines open if you want to give us a call. I mean, there's all kinds of things. I'm reading like a message group that we're in. All kinds of interesting things happening now.
I'm ignoring the message group right now. I'm trying to focus on the show. And FSK, Joe, why do you cut Proscar into fourths and not fifths? And what type of cutter do you use? I'm thinking of getting the cutter box thingy. Well, I cut it into fourths because it's too damn hard to cut it into fifths because it gets all powdery and it just kind of it's a pain in the ass. And I don't feel like messing with it. So it's a lot easier to do quarters. And I personally, for my situation, do not feel that an extra 0.25 plus or minus whatever you gain or lose because of the lack of extremely accurate cuts makes zero difference to me. It might be helping a little bit more, but I don't notice the difference because I've never taken a solid 1 milligram in my life ever. So it works. It's convenient. There you go.
All right, guys, let's take a phone call. Hey, you're on the air. Who's this and where are you calling from?
It's Maury from Brooklyn, at least for another couple of days.
Hey, Maury, when are you moving?
What's up, buddy?
How you doing, guys? Yeah, I'm moving Friday. The movers show up, and I fly out on Sunday.
Holy cow.
Wow.
Yeah, man.
Holy cow.
Trip, man.
Congratulations.
So are you, you're that's right, you're a single guy.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, good.
So,
good.
yeah, Mom's actually coming out with me.
What'd you say?
I said, Mom is actually coming out with me. It's part of the reason I'm doing this is because she likes to winter in South America, and she's going to be turning 82 in December, and quite frankly, I don't, she doesn't want to winter by herself anymore. And I was like, you know what, moving to Florida might make good. She'll be able to winter with me, and keep an eye on her.
That's actually that's really nice. That's really nice.
No,
now,
I'm looking forward to it.
Are you going to be living under the same roof?
Yeah, at least initially. I got a 2-bed, 2-bath. We'll see how that works.
Okay. Good luck with that.
It's a 9-month lease. So if it gets a little too crazy, then we'll get two separate apartments, either in the same complex or somewhere nearby. But
how are you going to get laid?
That's a good point. So like I said, we'll figure it out.
I mean, I know you have a lot of female friends. But,
Well, I mean, that's going to be a bit of a challenge also. I'm moving to an area where I don't have as many, but it's good. I get to up my game, which is something that needs to happen.
Hotel bars. Daytime game. That is my
Where are you gonna be?
little secret to you.
Where are you going to be?
In Western Florida. Western Florida.
Yeah. You're gonna have hotel bars, daytime game. And hotel bars is the way to fucking go. If there's a woman that's getting loaded in the afternoon, you're a shoo-in. And that's how you start. You start off slow. You start off with the low-hanging fruit.
Yeah, I hear you.
And then once you build up a little confidence, and then you kind of you move into like the TGI Fridays or or if you really have some confidence, go to like let's see, Western Florida. So I'm trying to think what hotels are in the area.
Well, I'm probably going to have to drive a little bit, I suspect, get a little closer to the beach, but I'm not too concerned. I mean, my main thing is I'm going to go to some of the music venues. I've already scoped up some of them online. I want to go to the Culture Room. I want to go to Revolution Live. I want to go see some live music like I do here in New York. And, the way I figured is I've put myself in a place where I'm enjoying myself and, the stuff that I kind of like, then I'm sure they're going to be women there with common interests. So, and we'll see how it goes, I got an old flame that I'm trying to stoke, so we'll see where that goes from back in 2000 thereabouts. And like I said, I'm not putting.
Dude,
too much pressure on
as my
myself.
late father would say, there's a lot of hooers down in Florida.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of hooers. That's right.
The key
from New York, you talk like that. There's a lot of hooers down there.
There's a lot of hooers down there.
The key is to go to the smaller burbs between like Jupiter and Fort Lauderdale, and find the tiki bar.
Ooh. Nah, I don't know, man. I'm gonna be pushing. They're gonna be like women pushing 70 in places like that.
No. My family. I've been there.
As long as they don't have like the translucent hands with the veins, 70 could be okay. Look at Raquel Welch.
I tried to.
Certainly true enough. Yeah. But actually, it's funny. This move is actually working in my favor in terms of delaying surgery because I am so not focused on that right now. And I'm given a chance for the meds to work. And I tell you something. It's a beautiful thing when you can get up every morning, look in the mirror, and be happy with what you see. Every day I look up in the mirror and I'm like, shit, that wasn't there before. Where'd those things come from? Oh, okay.
That's it. Listen, and that's a good feeling when I mean, you may not. Listen, it's very doubtful you're going to end up looking like Fabio, but the fact that you're seeing some results, the fact that at the very least you're probably strengthening your donor if you ever decide to have a transplant. It's an important thing.
The other reason I called was so we had this great conversation with Dr. Charles when he was on the phone, and really nice guy, enjoyed talking with him. I went to his website, and I have to say, he had a whole bunch of artist results up there.
Yeah.
And I honestly, the immediate post-surgery surgery, it's scary looking, man. I mean, it's big, it's boxy, and it's stark.
Well, he said something interesting. I don't know if you caught that, but he did say something about, and again, I'm paraphrasing what he said, that the newer instruments that he's using have helped him. Have helped him to avoid those issues that I think he was, that you're talking about. And so he made that pretty clear in the show last week, and I was actually surprised, and I felt like, wow, this guy he's not just, because that was a big investment. He invested a lot into that robot, and now he's, it's like, okay, well, maybe this isn't the way that I want to go, and maybe this isn't, in his mind at least. I'm not saying that this is what he's saying, and I'm not saying anything personally against the robot. But, he did kind of make it clear that there's some issues and that it's difficult to kind of go beyond a certain grid. So, yeah, I mean, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, it didn't even look like it was a question of going beyond. It's like there are these hard edges where you could see where it dropped off. And it's like, and granted, I mean, the images that I was looking at were like day after. So a lot of redness, a lot of, a lot of like impact on the donor area. And looking at this, I'm like, I can't imagine this is going to grow back looking anywhere near. And then on top of it, I looked at his after pictures. He's got no after pictures showing the donor area. And that's a red flag. I mean, a lot of these sites, they'll do an after image of the donor area. There'll be a video with somebody doing a comb through, so you really at least get some sort of hint as to what you're looking at. But he didn't have any of that, and that's concerning to me. Dr. Charles, if you're listening, you might want to look into that.
Yeah, and he may be listening. And the thing is, I mean, this is the way that it is with all guys in this industry. They want to put their best foot forward. And if there's an image that they may feel, or their marketing people may feel, could make people squeamish or uncomfortable, you're not going to see that image. That is just the way that it is. Now, my goal is to kind of get things to the point where everything is completely standardized. That every doctor in the IHRS, and frankly every doctor in the ISHRS, but I doubt that's going to happen, is willing to put every aspect of the surgery when they can, when the patient allows it, up on their sites. Now, Joe, you have, you've worked in a clinic. You know how hard that is to get done.
Oh yeah, it's never an easy thing to. deal with the photos. I mean, there's inconsistencies. There's getting people to come in when you want them to. I was talking to one clinic today about a patient where the patient kept sending in photos because he wanted the clinic to use the photos, but it looked like he got out of a wind tunnel. I mean, it is such a dealing with this is such a pain in the ass. And when you can get like a decent body of work, like say if you can get 15, 20 results on your website, that's a chore, and you've just accomplished a miracle. So if you got more than that and it keeps growing on your website, it means that you probably got someone that's working on that, not full time, but that's part of their job, is to keep reaching out to patients to get them to come in or to get them to send photos so they can be put on the website.
Yeah, because it's so important. You talk about education. I mean, just to give you a comparison, because I looked at a couple of websites. The other one I looked at was Dr. Epstein.
Yeah.
Now his site is nice, and I mean he's got a huge volume of results up there. And when I was looking through that stuff, it was nice. I mean, I was like, okay, I immediately there was more of a sense of trust looking at what I saw there.
And that's interesting, and that's why really this entire field now is dictated by, dictated. I mean, sadly, to some degree, dictated by SEO and website development, and just the ability to create a narrative that is more appealing than somebody else's. And if you don't have that, Jeff's been doing this for a long time. He does a lot of cases every year, so he has the volume to get that out there. And he also is, he has the infrastructure where he wants patients to have these to take these images. He makes sure that happens.
Interesting. Okay, so Epstein's got the infrastructure to build up that library. That's good.
Right, and
that's helpful.
And that's very important. Now, that's not to take anything away from Dr. Epstein. Dr. Epstein's been with us for almost since the inception of the IHRS. But you can see that this guy is able to really market himself in a way that maybe, in your mind, Dr. Charles or his team was unable to.
Yeah.
And sadly, your decisions are based on somebody, essentially, who is behind the scenes putting a website together, and also their team who is willing to actually take the time to make sure that every patient or most patients, have before images, have intraoperative images, after images, maybe video. If the doctor is willing to take the time to kind of do video themselves in the OR, stuff like that, as opposed to just like sitting there answering questions. I mean, there's a lot of nuance to creating the right narrative so that the patient really gets a good vibe, like you did.
Yeah. I mean, that was the thing that I because Charles was great. He came on and he talked, he answered my questions, and I really wanted to like him. But then I went to his website, and they had all of these. He had a series of these short. I think they were like maybe 15-second, simple short question answers. And they seemed very truncated and very, very abrupt. I didn't, and again, maybe he's just not that good on camera. I don't know, but it's
all part of it. It's all part. It's also the person who organized it, the person who wrote the question, the fact that they're doing this with they're working all day. They have a few minutes to make this happen. In some cases, I think it's really smart for all the doctors out there who are listening to take the time to have video done. Everyone, it's going to be very difficult to find somebody. I mean, when's the last time you heard somebody say, who has a camera? I mean, we all have cameras in our pockets. We all have great video cameras in our pockets. So I think it makes sense for a doctor, while they're doing surgery, to have a video taken and have them talk about something for 3 minutes.
And I'll tell you, I mean, this is a subject that I'm really familiar with, and I'll tell you that what you just talked about, Morty, is a classic example of the power in numbers and consistency. And you're talking about two different doctors. There's Dr. Epstein and Dr. Charles. Both are very good at what they do, but you just demonstrated the power of what Dr. Epstein understands, and that is having a well-oiled machine for getting out the results, getting the updates to the website with new results, and to make that a constant thing for his web presence. Now, I know nothing about Dr. Charles's practice. I don't know. I've not even been to his website in a while, so I don't even recall the number of cases. But what you're telling me is it's a clear case of, what I tell clients and people I don't even work with is that one of the most important things that you can do is, if you are comfortable with your work on a consistent basis, is to make everyone else comfortable with your work. And the only way to do that is to get it in front of eyeballs as often as possible. And you can't you can't rest on your laurels. If you get your 15 or 20 on your website, you can't just shut down and say, okay, we're done. Let's get back to work on other things. It doesn't work like that. You have to stay on top of it.
You have to constantly evolve.
And the thing about what you just said about Dr. Charles is, I think he said truncated video clips. That's another issue. And very few of these doctors are actually good on camera, and very few of these clinics have people in the office that know how to properly put together a short 15 seconds is fine. In fact, I like the idea of having a series of 15-second Q&As, so that it's just a quick thing, right? You're not overwhelmed with a bunch of fluff beforehand. It's just the quick question, the quick answer, done. But there are ways to do it that can leave you without that feeling of it being rushed. And you can't blame, like sometimes or many times, like I said, the doctors just aren't good on camera. They're very nervous and they look very uptight. Not saying that's the case with Dr. Charles, because I haven't seen these, but in general. So a lot of factors you just can't control. And someone that's in the office that knows what they're doing, they can kind of mitigate that a little bit, or in some cases a lot. I know I have, to make it seem smoother than it really is. So
it's so easy. The whole thing is, they look like it's so difficult. It's rocket science. They have to hire all these SEO companies. All these guys are now jockeying for position on sites like. And again, I think Real Self does it's a great business model. I mean, I pat this guy Tom Siri on the back all the time. I think he's done a tremendous job. But a lot of these, unfortunately, all these doctors are now putting themselves in a position where they are competing against complete novices on these sites because they just see numbers coming in. They're all concerned about leads. But if you ask any of these guys how often these leads are converted or what percentage of these leads are converted, most of them will say, not too often. That's just the way that it is. So everyone is kind of like, I don't know. It's a very confusing time, I think, for hair transplant surgeons. Everyone's in a fucking panic. And
I was talking to a clinic the other day, and the consultant with this clinic was talking to me about conversion rates, and it sounds it's very very businesslike and very it's like all the ROI stuff, and it's not something that I think is it's not interesting for me because I don't really look at that stuff, but. I think that the Real Self model is the ideal representation of the modern day hair transplant tire kicker. That's why the conversion rates for Real Self leads is so low, because these people that are coming to your clinic from Real Self, they're not coming to your clinic to have a surgery like the educated patient. They're coming to your clinic because you're one in a list of like 7 or 8 in the area that they're going in to get their consultation.
I'll tell you two guys in South Florida who's never asked me, never mentioned the word leads to me once. And one is Jeff Epstein and the other is Alan Bauman. And these guys know how to utilize their VOI, which is not ROI. ROI is return on investment. VOI is value on investment. And they understand that there's something called opportunity costs, and what you have to do is, and you're in the business world, so you know all this stuff. But I mean, people have to understand how to utilize certain tools that may not give them what they consider tangible ROI that's in you can put on a spreadsheet that all these idiots who they have working for them look at and utilize their VOI, because their VOI in today's world is their best ROI, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
And you said it exactly. I mean, hold on, Joe. I just ran out of space again. Anyway, you actually made that clear just by stating what you stated about Dr. Epstein's website versus Dr. Charles's website. He used his VOI. Yep. He uses his IHRS seals, American Hair Loss Association stuff, but even more importantly, he keeps things fresh, updated, puts a lot of cases out there, and gives you guys a lot of great stuff to look at.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yep.
And he's not saying, I wonder if this video is going to, how many leads this video is going to bring me.
Yep.
Mm.
So, all right, Maury, listen, I want you to have a safe move. I think this is a great topic that you brought up. Don't take it out on Dr. Charles because you didn't love his website. He's a good doctor.
No, I'm going to see him. Actually, the funny thing is you mentioned Bauman, because I went to his site as well. And I don't know, it's weird. This is just my impression, because Bauman is very high profile, right? Because he's got links to TV shows that he's been on. He's got, links to articles that he's published and things like that. And this is going to sound really crazy. He seems a little unapproachable to me.
That's interesting. I think he'd be interested in hearing that.
Most TV stars do seem that way.
Yeah, that's how I've tried to be for all these years.
Yeah, well, but again, if you're going to be, if you're starting a relationship where you're going to end up having someone cut into you, you want to be approachable, I would suggest. Just FYI on that one. Oh, and Joe, I wanted to tell you that I watched part 3 of the celebrity hair transplant thing.
The Kyle Christie.
Cool.
Yep.
Kyle Christie, yeah. And so just very cool on that. And I am dying to see what, if anything, he has done.
You mean to fix his situation?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh, nothing. This is all fresh. That interview was just done like a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago.
Oh, okay. I got you. All right.
Yeah, we are in the. I'm still working with him on educating him on the reality of his situation and what the generalities of the procedures he's looking at, and I'm helping him to make some decisions moving forward, because he knows it's bad. He realizes this, and it's interesting you brought that up, because in that interview, the segment that I just released yesterday, he's talking about something that a lot of people online are giving me shit over, and with that first video I put out where I put a title, Celebrity Hairline Disasters, the Kyle Christie Effect, now known as Part 1. I'm talking about his hairline. I'm talking about all these other hairlines from these shops in Europe and Turkey and a couple in the UK where it's pluggy. The hairline design looks really bad, and it's obviously done by amateurs. And there are a lot of comments from people saying, I would rather have density, and I actually read this in the German forums as well. I'd rather have density than naturalness. What the fuck does that mean? It's like that blows my mind. I would rather it be obvious that I had a bad hair transplant as long as it's thick. That's the way that's the way a lot of these guys
put a cheap rug on your head.
Well, of course, but yeah, well, they'll never do that. They wouldn't do that if you paid them to. But that's the state that we're in right now, where a lot of people they say that they will be happier with a thick result rather than a natural result. And they were commenting on that very same video, the very first one, down in the comments section. I've been getting a lot of slack for it. I don't really care, but I do find it surprising. And then in this latest clip that I just uploaded yesterday, he's talking about how he would rather pay full price to go to a high-class clinic to get it done right.
Yep.
And that's his realization, where people are saying, oh, well, it looks better than what it was before. He disagrees, and it's on his head.
And here's the sad thing. Dude, we know what it's like to deal with bullshit on the internet. And it's really, why can't people just take a look at things and say, You know what? I disagree, and this is the reason I disagree, as opposed to being vicious and all the just the nonsense that goes on, and them trying to trash you. And I mean, God Almighty, what a world we live in. Anyway, listen.
Well, I mean,
listen, dude. I'm gonna let you go. We're gonna take some more calls. Good luck with the move. It's very nice of you that you're moving in with your mother again at the age of 50.
Yeah, well, somebody's got to keep an eye on her.
No,
so,
dude, listen, I get it. Believe me, I
That's
took
good.
care of my
Yeah.
I took care of my parents. I know what it's all about. I'm just giving you stuff. I'm telling you. Listen to me about the daytime broads, man. The daytime game is the way to go if you're new in town.
Okay.
All right, man.
You know, I can definitely consider it. Take it easy, fellas.
All right.
Have a good one.
All right, take care.
Be safe.
888-659-3727 is the toll-free number. Let's see who this is. Hey, you're on the air. Who's this and where are you calling from?
Hello, my name is Michael, and I'm calling from Torrance, California.
Hey, Michael. What's happening?
Hey, Michael?
Hey, man. I just had a quick question, you guys. I'm 24 years old, right? And I've been dealing with hair loss for the past 8 years. So I first started losing my hair when I was 16, right? And at that time, you know, it was kind of traumatic for me emotionally. So I decided to hop on minoxidil. So I decided to hop on minoxidil on my temples. And, you know, it worked perfectly fine until around 18, I started to notice that I was losing density on the top of my head. So I decided to hop on finasteride. My question to you guys is, I've been on finasteride for about a year and 6 months, and to tell you the truth, I haven't really noticed any regrowth, but I definitely have seen an improvement in terms of, you know, my hair not falling out. Right?
It's working.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it's working, and to tell you the truth, I feel kind of, you know, happy about that. But recently, I just bought dutasteride. You know, I'm hoping that maybe adding that into my regime right now would help me out. And I've been doing that for the past month. I've been taking one pill for the past, 1 pill a week for the past month. And I recently bumped it up to 2 pills per week. Yeah, every week. My thing is, my hair is starting to shed a lot. And to tell you the truth, I don't know whether I should continue with this regimen or I should, you know, possibly just stop it altogether. I just want to know you guys' opinion.
This is a very, and we're not going to scold you for this because it's a very common theme. You know, people have hair greed, and people, especially young guys, they don't realize how lucky they are when something is working for them.
Yeah.
Now, let me ask you a question. If you would have been able to hold on to the hair that you had before you switched from finasteride to dutasteride, would you have been happy?
To tell you the truth, yes. I think I would have been super happy with that.
Okay. Well, I think this is a lesson learned for all of you guys out there who have hair greed and who think that they go online, they're like, wait a second, if finasteride has stopped my hair loss, then dutasteride, if I add something else to the arsenal, I'm going to get better results. Maybe I'm going to get all my hair back. And what normally happens is exactly what you're describing. And again, I am not a physician. Joe is not a physician. This is not a show where we give medical advice. So talk to your doctor about this. But this is a very common phenomenon. And a lot of guys, especially the younger guys, who have hair greed, who aren't satisfied with just hair loss, you know, the cessation of their hair loss, they do what you do, and they end up going through what in some cases could be a tremendous telogen effluvium or a shed or just an effluvium. Now, it doesn't mean that it's not something that's reversible. It's not something that if you stick with the medication, you know, won't stop, and then you could start to see regrowth again. But the more you switch things up, the greater chance you have of fucking up.
Yeah.
Fuck yeah.
So, Joe, why don't you give me your...
Well, it's just a valuable lesson, and I was thinking the exact same as Spencer. It's like, you know, I'm not going to beat you up, but it is a classic case of hair greed where, especially the younger guys, it's like, well, this worked. I know this is supposed to work. Fuck it, let's add them together and see what I get. And I mean, it makes sense. I get it. I totally get it. But I guess the question now for you is, you know, what to do next. Like you've been on dutasteride for how long?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So I just wanted to, you know, when I first called, I got kind of nervous, you know, because I see you guys all the time. I'm like, man, you know, are they really going to pick up my call? And that's why, I mean, when you guys picked up, I was super nervous, talking super fast. So I should probably restate my, you know, my current, like, you know, routine. I've been taking minoxidil for the past 8 years, you know, for the temples and the top of my head. I've been taking finasteride 1.25 milligrams every single day with no side effects, which is a good thing. And just recently, I'm still taking finasteride, but I am currently, you know, trying to add dutasteride. And like I said, I mean, I'm getting a big shed, so I don't know. I don't know what to do.
All right, but my question is, how long you've been taking dutasteride itself? You started one pill a week. How long ago?
About a month, he said.
For a month, and then just recently, I bumped it up to twice a week.
Like how recently? Like this past week or 2 weeks ago?
Yeah, 2 weeks ago.
Okay, all right. So here's my opinion, and that is that because you're having a shed so soon from adding a very spaced out regimen of dutasteride, that tells me that there's potential that you could have a strong turnaround because you're reacting quickly. You're reacting aggressively to the medication. But at the same time, it could be the other way around. And because you're so early in this, if it were me, I'd probably stop and just stick with finasteride and stay consistent with it. That's just what I would do. Talk to your doctor about this, the doctor that wrote the script for you, and see what they say.
Dude, no doctor wrote him that script. You got that shit online, right?
Well, no, yeah. So as a matter of fact, I got I got generic dutasteride, but from Murray Apothecary. I think it's in Boston. Is that how you pronounce it?
Apothecary.
Yeah, exactly. So I got it from them. So, you know, I don't really doubt the quality of the medicine because, you know, if I ever do have any questions about billing or anything like that, you know, they pick up reasonably, like, very quickly. So, you know, like I said, I don't think it's an issue with
if anyone has a problem with billing with me, I will pick up the phone before you even call because I want to get paid. The question is, will they pick up the phone if you start calling to ask questions about the product? And if you got, that's the question, right? Anyone should pick up the phone about billing.
Look, I'm sure. Listen, I'm sure it's legitimate generic dutasteride. I'm sure all of that stuff is great. But what I meant was, I can guarantee you that if you walked into a doctor's office, given the story that you gave us, saying that you had stopped your hair loss, if they took a look at you, they probably would say, you know what, quit while you're ahead.
Yeah.
So that's why I said you probably got it online. So, you know, I think Joe's advice is good. And I think it's something that you have to think about and talk to your, in air quotes, doctor about it, because obviously you're not seeing a doctor, but you probably should consider, you know, being under a doctor's care.
And that doesn't mean speak to accounts receivable at the apothecary.
Yeah. But... you know, I think throwing more medication at it is not the answer. If you're going to stick with dutasteride, stick with the dose. And again, I'm not a doctor, so this is not medical advice. But if you're going to stick with it, stick with the dosage you're on right now. Don't try to throw more at it because you're going through a shed. And if you're going to get off of it, you've only been on it for a month. So chances are you're probably going to you're going to react as well as you did initially on finasteride once you start to see that cessation of shedding.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So just then you guys would just recommend to just stop it altogether, then, right? Do with dutasteride and just keep continuing with finasteride.
I would say that that's a sound suggestion. We can't give you exact advice because, listen, you know, you got on it, you started to shed, getting off it can cause things to happen as well. But you haven't stopped taking finasteride, so you still have that. No. You still have that in your system. Yeah, I mean, I would do what Joe would do, and that is I would probably just, you know, leave the big guns for later. They're always going to be there for you.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, man.
Got you. I have one more question, guys, just very quickly.
Holy shit!
Jesus, he's one of those guys. Yeah. God.
Just the last question. What about puncturing the dutasteride pills and putting in some minoxidil, like making a topical. Would you guys recommend doing that, or
No.
just leave it?
Dude, here's what I recommend: stay off the internet.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
That's what I recommend. You were doing well. Just stay off the forums, stay off the internet, stick to your regime that you were doing well with, and leave it alone. Because believe me, if you can keep your hair... Look, I am 53 years old. I've been on finasteride for well over 20 years. I had lost some ground over the years. Now, I could have jumped on dutasteride or upped my dosage of finasteride out of fear. I was like, you know what? I'm still holding on, so I have to paint my head a little bit more. I don't want to fuck with it until I really need to. I want to save that when I really believe that I need it.
And the number one ally you have in this is consistency. The moment you stop with the consistency element of taking a medication is the moment you lose, because that's what keeps the levels in your system where they need to be. And then you start introducing other things or changing up the routine, it can throw everything out of whack, and you don't know what the hell happened because you're throwing different solutions at the problem. So keep it simple, keep it consistent, and stop reading do-it-yourself hair loss remedies. And for the love of God, don't start doing homemade PRP or any of that stuff. And
No.
Just keep it simple.
Yeah.
And you'll benefit in the long run.
This is how you should live your life. The internet is for directions, for restaurant reviews, and porn. If you live like that, then you're going to be a lot healthier.
And happier.
Happier.
Got you guys. I just want to say, thank you for what you guys are doing, and you guys are giving, great insights, not just people that are around your age, but, younger people as well, and I appreciate it.
I appreciate you saying that. I'm offended by the age comment, but all right, man, you take care.
Thanks for calling.
All right,
bye-bye. Not just for people our age. What the fuck does that mean? 888-659-3727. Let's see who this is. Hey, you're on the air. Who's this and where are you calling from?
Hello.
Hello.
Hello. What's up, Spencer? How's it going?
All right. Who's this?
This is John from Florida. How you guys doing?
Oh, hey, John from Florida. What's going on?
What's up, buddy?
Going good. How you guys doing?
We're doing okay, man. Doing a little show here.
I kind of wanted to update you guys on what I've decided to do. I don't know if you guys remember a situation I had with the procedure I had in South Florida.
Oh yeah, with the guy who was on Dr. Oz. I just put this in a discussion forum or in a private app. I don't even know what it's called. Whatever, a message app. But I just saw a disciple of your doctor's surgery online, and I couldn't even fucking believe it was like 1993 all over again. I haven't seen work like this in a very, very long time. This poor sucker has no idea what he's going to be dealing with in 6 months.
No, yeah. Like every time, like someone calls in and they say they go to him, I like cringe because I'm like not in a bad way, but I'm like, fuck, like hopefully they don't get screwed because like I remember you guys had a show, I think it was like 2 or 3 weeks ago where there was a caller that called in. And like I usually listen to a program, but this time I was like watching it, and I remember Joe put up the pictures of the kid, and I was like it gave me shivers. I was like, God damn, like at least my result, like my hair is a little more like curly, so it wasn't that, I guess, like noticeable. But like I was like, damn, like I guess there's someone out there that's in a worse situation.
Oh, there's a lot of people. There's people who had surgery today whose lives are going to be completely altered in a way that they could never have imagined. And that's because a lot of listen, like I always say, apathy is your enemy in everything in life. And because of the way that the vast majority, in my view, of even the good physicians are in this field, and the fact that nobody is really willing or hasn't been willing to come together as a collective force to get the truth out there. And everyone is just jockeying for position, either political position or position to put some
financial position.
dollars in their pockets. they're like, you know what? Fuck it. Listen, it's not my problem. I don't want to get in trouble. Don't tell them I said this. Blah, blah, blah. You know, no one has, or very few people have the courage to do what Joe and I do. But as far as the industry as a whole, if everyone would come together, the good guys would come together, none of this would be happening. None of it. And if it did, if it was out there, there would be enough soldiers, enough numbers to make sure that more people were aware of it so that less people would be harmed. That's like fucking herding cats with these guys.
No, yeah, and this guy's very new, so it's like, you know, the people are going to him I basically went to him just out of ignorance, but like if you're doing your research and you actually go for like an unexperienced doctor, I think it's just, you know, you're not really doing your research, because it seems like this surgery is like something that has to do with like, you know, experience. Like you gotta, you know, people have done this like a lot of.
All I can say is in this game or in any form of cosmetic surgery, YouTube is not your friend in general, except, you know, we're trying to do our best. And I hate to say it, but, you know, some of these other entrepreneurial cosmetic surgery sites are not your friend. If there's a site that says they have a 98% success rate or satisfaction rate, you leave that site.
Right.
That you run as far as you fucking can and do research elsewhere. So anyway, tell us what your situation is now.
All right, so basically after doing a lot of research and stuff, I decided to book with Dr. Charles in Boca.
Okay.
And I haven't like booked a surgery there or anything, but the day I went over there, I booked with him and I did a laser session to remove some of the frontal hairs.
All right.
That were like in total, it was like he estimated that it was probably like 100, 120 grafts that I lost. But like now seeing it from like him lasering it out, like it looks way better. Like right now, like I went to my barber the other day and like he didn't even know it. Like before he was like, damn, like you have to get that removed. And like now that I got removed, like it looks a lot better because, you know, because I've been taking finasteride for a while now and I've had pretty good success on finasteride. So. Well,
I mean that's great, and that's why, you know, sometimes you have to let, you know, it's precious material. We have a finite amount of hair that could be moved. But sometimes when you're in the position that you were put in, you got to let those grafts go.
Yeah.
Correct. Yeah. Like I really contemplated like going to another surgeon to FU them out, but I was like thinking about it, I'm like, damn, if, you know, and like Dr. Charles even told me, he's like, look, like I remember the day that I went to like book with him, he goes like, I brought it up again. He's like, look, if you want them FUE'd out, like, you go somewhere else because I'm not going to do it. So, you know, for him telling me that, I was like,
good for him.
You know, like I reassured, you know, I was like, you know, if this doctor is willing to throw, you know, to give, you know, basically not to take my money, you know, he's saying it for a reason. So, you know, I was like, fuck it.
Well, there's a reason. There's another reason why he said that, and it's because, you know, a lot of times people think that if they've got, say, a bad hairline that needs to be repaired somehow, that those grafts need to be redistributed into other areas behind every time. But that's not always possible. And if it is possible, it's not always something that you actually want, because a lot of those grafts are damaged. And it's also more difficult to get a high survival rate of a graft that's already been transplanted a second time than a virgin graft. But a lot of those grafts are damaged and they look bad for a reason. And it's because they're going through compression, which is where the incision is too small and it's squeezing that graft and it's causing it to grow a little bit more kinky or a little bit more wiry than usual, or you know, wrong angles, even though it was placed in the proper angle. And then not to mention there is the potential for additional scarring from another FUE procedure. And, you know, it depends on the doctor and depends on the tool, but a lot of it does depend on the physiology and how you heal. So damaging or throwing away grafts or discarding grafts isn't always a bad thing. And I've had people, you know, get really upset with me saying, you know, every graft is precious. Not after it's been moved once. Not after it's been moved once. It can be a negative for you if it is moved, because it can cause problems if it even grows once it's moved a second time to begin with. So I like the fact that he told you that it was not only a bad idea, that he wouldn't do it. So good for him and good for you.
Yeah, like even the first day I went to him, he was like, this is not something that I recommend, and that's what like basically had me like go to the doctors and see what other people said, because I just didn't want to take, I just didn't want to take one person's opinion, considering the fact that I've gotten fucked over already. So I was like, damn, let me make sure that I, what's the best possible scenario. So so like I'm pretty happy with that. Like the laser procedure it went pretty well. Like I don't see any like any redness or anything like that. Like it seems to be pretty normal. So I'm good with that. But now the situation is I don't know what to do in terms of now repair. Because, all right, so basically from where the hairline is, there's probably very little thinness, from the hairline, probably like a finger's length, and where I would need to fill in. And Dr. Charles said that probably around like 1,000 to 1,200 grafts would be like ideal. So, so we're working with like a small amount of grafts.
Right.
And I already have a strip back there. So I'm thinking, damn, like to get so little, because it's not like a little bit, but it's not a lot either. So like I don't know if I should do FUE, because I know he has like a lot of different devices there, and like I know he does FUE a lot. So I don't know if to go through a strip where I can, because the scar I have right now is not bad. It's pretty it's pretty good. Like it's not a bad scar. So like I don't know if to risk it and go with FUT to get like 1,000 grafts, or just go in via FUE. He has like the Smart Graph, and he has like another, he has a NeoGraph, I think.
How old are you?
I'm 23.
You're 23, and what's your hair loss situation overall? Refresh my memory. Like what? Where were you classified on the hair loss chart? Norwood 2, Norwood 4.
When I went into surgery from my first doctor, he classified me as like a Norwood 3, probably like a 2.5 or 3. I still had a lot of hair, but now, I pretty much have a full head of hair besides the questionable hairline work that was done.
Okay,
so I basically
and then what?
Need the hairline, like refined and added up like a little bit of density in it. But I have a lot of hair.
Okay, no, that's fine. But then also, what is your family history like? Like, who's lost hair on your father's side and who's lost hair on your mother's side, and how bad?
My dad is like 73, 74, and he still has hair. Like it's not robust or anything, but he still has like a decent amount of hair. And from my mom's side, it's questionable. Like her dad had prostate cancer, so I can't really tell. I'm not sure if the hair loss was from that or from but he was bald though. Like he was like a Norwood 6 or like Norwood 7.
Okay, and then uncles or cousins.
Most of them, for the most part, have their hair. Probably like 1 or 2 don't. Like I have one cousin that's bald. Like he's probably the only one that's like bald of the whole family.
All right, so grandfather on their mother's side, and then a cousin, and the grandfather. If it's an actual pattern of Norwood 6, it's genetic. The cancer, that's a whole different discussion. But and then your hair type is what? Is it curly? Is it straight? Is it
it has
slightly
a curl
curly?
To it. It's not curly, but it is. It has some curl to it. Like it's probably wavy. I would
wavy.
Suggest.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what's the texture? Was it classified as fine, medium, or coarse?
Damn, that's something I'll probably have to ask Dr. Charles.
Holy shit! Okay. What's your blood type?
Well, that's 14 questions from now.
Jesus
buddy, all right?
Christ.
No, the reason I'm asking these questions is because you asked, or you're talking about the issue of whether you should get another strip or not. I think that a strip at your age, it's like you've already had one. So should you have another? You're young, and I was asking about potential for future hair loss, because if you do have a lot of future hair loss in your foreseeable outlook, then maybe another strip would be advisable, only because you've had one to begin with. If you were a virgin scalp, I'd tell you not to do surgery at all, but that's not a luxury that we have right now. So, and then the number that you told us, 1,200 grafts for your hairline, but you said that your hairline is maybe like a finger's width of recession or area that he's going to work in, that's actually a healthy number. So yeah, it's a strip for only 1,200 grafts, but do you actually need 1,200 grafts? And not to question Dr. Charles's assessment on this, but that sounds like it's a lot of hair for a fairly narrow area.
He said 1,000. He said more like towards 1,000, but he said that if I wanted to work like in the peaks, like the temporal, to put some there. But like he said, with the 1,000 grafts would be good, and he said that if like price was an issue, like 800 FUE grafts would also make a good difference in the hairline.
Now, did he suggest? What was his suggestion? Did you ask him that question?
His suggestion was FUT. Like his suggestion was strip because I already have the strip back there, but he basically said you can do either or because I still have a lot of hair and like it's not like that many grafts. Like if it was a lot of grafts, I'm pretty sure he would just tell me, look, just do another strip. But
I can say this, and this is also, I mean, Joe asked a lot of good questions. I'm just giving him shit, but I think also, right now, you say you have a good scar. How does the integrity of the back of your scalp look? Does it look like there's any type of hair growth pattern changes from the top of the scar to the bottom? Does everything look like it's all growing in line in the same way? Because you did mention that you have curlier hair, which can be a real asset when it comes to, especially when you're taking out strips, because it makes the every time you have a strip done, removed, you actually are changing the integrity of your scalp. So if you have the right hair type to camouflage that change of integrity, then that could even make you, and again, I'm not a physician, but that can make you a better candidate for a second strip. Add that to the fact that you are young and that you have stronger healing properties and that you might progress more as you age, as Joe suggested. That's not, I don't think that's a bad suggestion from Dr. Charles.
Correct. No, just to answer your question, like I don't have like in terms of the scar, for instance, there's one side of my scar that's better than the other, and Dr. Charles said that he would go for the side that's better, which is kind of like because I kind of wanted to do like the scar revision on the, like on the side that's a little worse, but overall the scar's not bad, so I am kind of like being picky in order to do a scar revision for that, but I was like if he was to take out the strip, I would rather him to have taken it out from the side that's bad, to see if maybe it can get better. But he says he would rather take it from the side that is good because he says that, since it's like it heals better from that side, like from my left side.
Well, listen, I think that, you have to have faith in the physician that you choose. And I think, you're asking all the right questions. And the fact that you already look better and he gave you good advice to begin with, meaning that he could have FUE'd those grafts out. He could have charged you that money, and you're already feeling more comfortable. I think there's a pretty good chance that you're going to be very repairable. And listening to Dr. Charles, I don't think you're going to go wrong. But, in the end, you have to make that decision.
So you guys think that, like addressing what Joe said, do you think it would be better to do the strip because I already have the strip, or do you think either or would kind of,
okay, I'll be frank about this. I think that if you're happy with the scar, if you can live with the scar at this point, if you can live with it, don't be in a rush to get another one. Because every time that you have a strip surgery, and you're talking to someone who's had 7 strip surgeries, every time you have a strip surgery, you risk the possibility of a worse scar than you tried to fix.
Absolutely, and Joe is 100% right about that. So that's something to take into consideration.
And if you're okay with it, if it's not causing you grief on a daily basis, where you're struggling to cover the scar, or you're trying to have shorter haircuts, and it's every time you go to the barber or your stylist, they cut it just a bit too short, and you're self-conscious about it. If that's not the case, then I wouldn't be in a rush to get another one, and I would talk to Dr. Charles about his FUE option, and maybe even putting some grafts into that side of the donor scar that is a bit wider than you'd like. If you are going to go forward with another strip surgery, in my view, like if it were me, it's like, well, I've got one side that's better than two. Why would I want to even begin to risk jeopardizing that?
Yeah,
work on the side that I'm not happy with and try to make that better, and take it a bit longer instead of a lot wider, so that there's less tension. And he may have talked about this with you. I don't know, and I don't want to kind of get in the way of that. But this is just what I would be looking at for my own case, and I think that I'm not big on doing multiple strips. If like you're happy with it, and this is coming from someone who's been through it, if you're okay with it, then don't risk it. If you do decide to risk it, then risk it on the side that's already kind of the worst of two evils.
Correct.
Just my opinion.
No, yeah, that's kind of the same mindset I had when, but like I'll probably have to talk to him again. He also said something about like a steroid injection or something that he can like put in it to make it better. I don't know if that can do anything, but
there's some doctors that will include a bit of a steroid mixture into the saline that they might be using for tumescence, which is a whole other discussion, or they might mix it in with the anesthetic. And the idea is that it helps to reduce inflammation post-surgery, so that in turn reduces the chance of a wide scar. And in fact, I think that was done on me in my last surgery. I can't remember. But there's anecdotal evidence that it does help.
Okay. And in the case that I do the FUE, because like I've gone over the option with him, the way he does the FUE, he does it in a way where you can, I guess, not shave your head. And I think you talked about this on a previous show where you wouldn't recommend that. Like I didn't get why it was that you didn't recommend that, but like basically what he does is that he trims like certain sections of your hair.
Yeah.
And he just removes the grafts, and he's able to like once you leave surgery, it doesn't look like you've been like worked on.
Yeah.
So,
then just get a strip. That's the way I look at it. It's like. And this is just my opinion. I don't like contradicting doctors, especially if they're doctors I respect. But I do have to speak my mind. And I think, in my view, that when you go into the donor scalp and you start shaving out little areas throughout the scalp to take the hair, and then the rest of the hair is long enough to cover over it, that's no different than getting a strip, because you're shaving out the strip. The hair above it's long enough to where it'll cover when it droops over. And ultimately the end result is, you still have potential for having patches of lower density where the FUE grafts, or where the grafts were taken out with FUE, as opposed to more of a seamless reduction of density across the board. So if I were going in for an FUE procedure, I would shave the shit out of my head. I would go in with my head shaved, whether I was asked to or not. I'd go in for the consultation with my head, like for the proper consultation. I'd have them take all kinds of photos, and then I'd come in with my own razor and say, "When are we doing this?" Because I want them to have.
I wish I could do that.
I want them to have a clear. Well, I got a strip scar going around half my head, dude, and I would jeopardize hiding that in exchange for having a healthy-looking donor from a proper extraction zone that's spread out as wide as possible, even for 1,000 grafts. Because if you take any number of grafts from too small of an area that's concentrated, anywhere in the scalp, then it defeats the whole purpose of FUE to begin with, and that is to not have the appearance of surgery having been done. And when that's done improperly, then you have this moth-eaten appearance either in one spot or throughout if it's a bunch of smaller spots. And I'm just not a fan of it. Now, in that vein, there are ways to do it properly, and I'm sure Dr. Charles has a grip on this, but I'm just not a fan of it. And some of the doctors I work with offer this procedure, and I don't It's like, great. If the patient wants it and they understand the downsides, knock yourself out. But I'm not going to be on board with something like that wholeheartedly. I just don't care for it. I don't think it makes sense.
Okay.
All right, man. Listen, we're going to have to go on to the next caller, but let us know what you decide to do. I think Joe gave some really sound advice, and look, the guy's had 9 surgeries. So,
which isn't something to brag about.
Yeah, it's like saying you've been married 5 times.
Yeah, it could be said. God, Joe's pretty stupid.
Or he's committed.
Or he's committed.
Yeah.
Or I just happen to be in the right place at the right time.
Yeah.
8 times.
Or he has a lot of money.
Or he's got a lot of money. All right, man.
Yeah,
listen, let us know what you decide to do. We wish you the best of luck. I'm glad you've already seen an improvement. So good luck.
Yeah.
All right, Spencer and Joe. Thank you.
All right, you take care. All right.
See you, buddy.
Bye.
Phone number is 888-659-3727. Listen, you gave me the opportunity to take a nice nap there. So thank you.
That's what I do, man.
Yeah.
That's what I do.
Appreciate it. Hey, you're on the air. Who's this and where are you calling from?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah.
Hi, Spencer and Joe. How are you guys doing?
Okay, how are you? Where are you calling from? Who's this?
Don't complain.
My name is Trevor from New Jersey.
Hey, Trevor. Welcome.
Hello, Trevor.
Hi. I want to say thank you to both of you guys for all the work that you guys do, trying to put the real truth out there, because you guys are. I think you're really right when you say that the industry is filled with a lot of lies, and I've been lost in those lies for a long time, I think. So I'm a guy who has been contemplating this decision on whether or not to take finasteride for the past 3 years. I feel like I'm in a bit of a do or die situation right now where, it's been receding, and in the temple areas, it's really starting to thin up right now. I've been on, minoxidil for 3 years, and I really don't think it's done anything because the hair loss has either just stayed the same or even sped up, I believe, over these past 3 years. And, I just feel like it's such a tough decision because on the one hand, there's the scientific studies, the percentages, like, far less than 1% will have these side effects, the persistent ones. And then on the other hand, there's the horror stories.
Well, let me ask you this, and you're right about that. And I know that if I was in your position, your age, in your position, with all the information that's out there on the internet, I would probably have been paralyzed for a while. Now, hair loss affected me to such a great degree that I may have just said, fuck it. But even when I started, I was told by doctors that, any of these prostate medications, and this is before they knew a lot about 5-alpha reductase inhibitors, essentially feminize the man. So you're a young man, you don't want to put any of this stuff into your body. There's a lot of fear-mongering, even among some of the doctors I was consulting with. The doctor who prescribed me the drug read about the drug in the PDR, the physician's desk reference, when they actually had a book that they had to open back in the day, and said, it looks like the incidence of side effects are pretty low. And as far as feminizing effects, he didn't feel that that would be an issue and that I would be able to notice any changes pretty quickly and then get off the drug. And I popped that pill and I never looked back. Now, I've been on the drug for well over 2 decades. I understand that, taking any drug, but especially when it's something that could possibly affect your junk or affect your ability to have sex or all these other side effects that are being reported online, it could be frightening. But if a woman or any girl were to actually take a look at some real studies that pointed to the incredible number of side effects that could be related to taking oral contraception, the birth control pill, which includes permanent lack of desire for sex or permanent lack of libido, inability to have orgasm, altered orgasm, all the things that we worry about taking Propecia, plus blood clots, cancers. And this stuff has all been stuff has been found in studies, clinical trials, verified. There's a cause and effect verification, a causal effect verification. These women pop that shit like candy at the age of 16. Doctors don't even think twice about prescribing it to these women. So you kind of have to put everything into perspective when you're making a decision on whether or not you want to take this medication. Can you live your life as a bald guy? If you can, then my advice is shave your head, move on.
You win.
And you win.
Yeah, that's something that I've definitely thought about because I've heard you say it on the show a lot. And I would have to say that I am not equipped to, at least at this point, probably ever, to be able to do that. I become a completely different person when I start to obsess over hair loss. I become like this irrational version of myself, and like I've told people, this is the worst problem that a person could possibly have, and everybody's being up on me.
I made this my life. I turned my Achilles heel into my career because it affected me so much. I am the one guy who understands this, probably as well. I mean, a lot of the guys who call in obviously understand it, but I was affected to such a degree that it made me so unhappy that I dedicated my entire world to this subject. And plenty of people, even to this day, it doesn't matter how successful you are in life, they still think I'm out of my mind. You know, they don't understand how, why I got into this, how I got into this. I mean, and then they obviously, they look me up or they see in their minds what car I drive or where I live or stuff like that. And they're like, oh, okay, now I understand.
Yeah.
That's not why I got into this. I got into this because I wanted to save myself, because there was no information like this out there when I needed help, when I was in your position. And I could be in your position tomorrow. That's the thing. That's the thing about hair loss. That's what's so frightening about it. You never know where you're going to stand tomorrow. I never know when things are going to start to progress again, if they're going to progress again, what I'm going to look like in 2 or 3 years, from now. So you can't feel bad or be made to feel bad or feel like you're being obsessive about something that is really making you feel less comfortable in your own skin, because it's very real.
And so I had asked my dermatologist if he was aware of, every time I ask the doctors, is there any way to predict it? Are there any tests out there? Is anybody doing any research whatsoever in the entire, gigantic world that would be something that would make millions of dollars to be able to predict, look at maybe a family history or a certain, blood type, or look at, test your hormones to be able to predict whether or not a person will get the side effects. Nobody's doing any research like that. They always just say, no, I'm sorry, it doesn't exist. Nope, there's nothing.
Well, why wouldn't they do that for drugs that cause worse adverse side effects?
Yeah.
I don't understand.
Drugs that cause cancer, drugs that are known. I mean, why wouldn't they do more research?
Drugs that cause stroke, drugs that cause all kinds of ailments that make people bedridden.
If you had the ability to know that if I took aspirin, a genetic test, that if I took aspirin, I wouldn't have anaphylactic shock, or I wouldn't have my blood wouldn't be thin to the point where I have major issues, whatever issues, bleeding issues.
Yeah.
Then that would be great. There are much more, what's the word I'm looking for? Dire adverse side effects from other drugs than there are from Propecia or finasteride. So if there were to have any tests like that, then I'm sure they would go for different drugs. Now, there's a company out there that I know was working on genetic testing to see whether or not you were going to do well on finasteride or minoxidil. And at this point, I don't know where they are as far as they were out for a while. It was a company called HairDX. And I don't know exactly what they're doing right now. But to my knowledge, there's no genetic testing to see whether or not you're going to have the potential of adverse side effects. So you're going to have to make a choice. You're either going to be bald, you're either going to be bald, or you're going to take a chance with the medication. I know it's not an easy choice, but those are your two choices.
Because it's kind of difficult because I don't actually know anybody else in my life who actually takes the drug. So do you know of any community that I could reach out to? Because I would really like to hear other guys' stories, like, hey, guys who have been through this already, who have been through this decision, and ask them what was going on through your head when you were making this decision. What was it that finally? What was the determining factor?
Well, I can tell you this. You can go to baldtruthtalk.com. There's a few threads from guys who've had success with finasteride. You might be able to contact guys through there. But the majority of stuff out there is going to be negative. The guys that take the time to spend the time on the internet to talk about Propecia or finasteride are talking about their adverse experiences. But there are guys out there on our forum that have come out and spoken about how, great it's been for them.
Right.
So, that's the best I can do for you, man. I could hear the angst in your voice. I wish I could tell you, you know what? Take the drug. You're not going to have side effects. But you have to,
Nobody can tell me that.
No, and I could tell you that, honestly, just listening to your voice, as soon as you pop that pill, there's a chance you're going to have side effects.
That's exactly what I was going to say. And the reason I was going to say that is because in my experience, people that are expending so much energy just trying to decide if they're going to take it or not because of their anxieties behind the what if question, they're more likely to have that propagate into an actual issue that does affect them. Psychosomatic effect. Even if you might not be likely to get the side effect, naturally, just even if you didn't know about the side effects, but because you're so anxious about it, you just told us that you've been spending 3 years deciding whether to even try it. That tells me that, in my opinion, you probably shouldn't even bother. And I know that the shaved head issue is something that you said you're not equipped to handle, and I can appreciate that. But you're going to have to make some sort of decision. And I think that a lot of people, have made the decision of saying, you know what, screw it, I'll try it. Whatever happens, happens, and I'll accept my fate. And they try it, and nothing happens, except for maybe some benefits. But if you're spending this much energy on it, I would have reservations about whether you should try it or not. So make the decision, do or don't, and stick to it and move on. That's the only thing I can tell you.
Okay. Do you guys have time for one more question?
Sure.
So among all the studies out there, there's one certain statistic that I've been searching for that I have not been able to find. They always have the ones with the large sample sizes where they have the percentage of guys on the actual drug that had the side effects and the percentage of guys on the placebo that had the side effects. I've seen one study that said 3.8 on the drug had the side effects and 2.2 on the placebo had the side effects. So I'm
now
wow.
was that for 1 milligram or was that for 5 milligrams?
It was for 1.
Okay.
Yeah, not generic, brand name Propecia.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And what I really want to see, no studies have had this, is also the numbers on both sides for the persistent side effects. I've seen studies that have the short-term side effects on the drug, short-term side effects on placebo, long-term side effects on the drug, but I haven't seen any that had the long-term side effects for the placebo. What is it, 0? Why does nobody ever mention it? Because if it's greater than 0, that would actually tell me that, I could kind of conclude that the drug is safe by that number, because that means that it was caused by something else, and it tells us that it's possible that a lot of these other guys, the guys that are having the persistent side effects, their long-term side effects are being caused by something other than the drug.
I could be wrong, but I thought that I'd see on some of these studies where it does mention at the end, once the study was concluded, those on side effects return to normal. On placebo, return to normal or something like that. I don't know, Spencer. I mean, have you seen that? I seem to remember. I remember seeing something like that.
But that's not what he's asking. Yeah, that's exactly what we've seen. That's what the guys who get off the drug during clinical trials return to normal, and the guys who got off the placebo who had the side effects return to normal. But I think the caller's question is he wants to know,
Or with continued use?
Well, not continued use, but the guys who were on the placebo, who had the adverse side effects, did those side effects go away after they stopped taking the placebo? And if they didn't go away, that would then prove for sure that it was a long-term, psychological effect for the long-term adverse effects after stopping the drug.
Yeah.
Or just caused by something else, aging.
Right. Yeah, right now that's not available, and by the time that is available, you're going to be bald, dude. So, so my advice to you is, you're a wreck over this, man, and I understand it, but you have to just make a decision. You have to figure it out. If I'm equipped to deal with hair loss, there's no way I'm taking this pill. But you say you're not equipped to deal with it, then you have to choose. Do I want to take a chance? And are you prepared for a bad outcome? And if you're 100% not prepared for dealing with any adverse side effects, if that is completely out of the game, you got to balance that, then you shouldn't take it. But if you can deal with it temporarily, if you can deal with it for a year, just to see whether or not you're going to do well on the drug, then that kind of gives you a little bit of a better chance of potentially trying it. But I don't know, man. You sound, I don't care what forum you go to. You're going to get a million different responses. Everyone's going to tell you something different. Joe and I have been on it forever.
You think you're confused now.
Yeah.
That'll make it 10 times
Listen,
worse.
Every friend that I have, my close friends that I grew up with, are now taking finasteride. Most of the people in my personal life, a lot of guys who chose not to take it because of the adverse side effects, began to take it later in life. They wish they would have taken it earlier. I don't know anybody in my personal life who's been affected by it, but that doesn't mean that you won't be.
Yeah.
So we can't give you a definitive answer. We can't just say, hey, yeah, here's a study, check this out. This will help you make your decision. I wish I could. So we're gonna close up shop. Actually, we'll probably take one more call and close up shop. But I wish there was more we can do for you, man. Deliberating over this for 3 years.
Don't feel bad. It's the situation. Nobody can make the decision for me.
Well, that's true.
Right.
That's true. It's well said. But I got to tell you, we do feel bad because, we understand. And I've never had this issue to that degree, but I do understand to a point. And I deal with a lot of guys that have this issue as well. And I know what kind of anxiety it can put you through. And I know it can be debilitating for some people. And so, yeah, we do feel bad. That's part of the reason why we do this. We feel bad for others and we want to help as we can. But make a decision. And I think that if you can make a decision to not do anything and kind of own your situation, you'll be better in the long term, for sure.
Thank you guys for
all right,
all your
man.
help.
Good luck.
I'll keep you updated.
Yeah,
please do.
Keep us updated. And I have a feeling that I didn't want to say that. Just make a decision. Let us know what you decide to do. And
I have a feeling that it's all going to be okay in the end.
Well, good.
Well, that's good to hear.
Good. All right, man. Well, good luck.
Thank you.
All right, take care.
Bye.
What are you going to say? I like to say is just take the fucking drug, dude. See what happens.
Yeah. And 6 months later, you told me to take this damn pill, and it's your fault. And yeah.
So, Merc shill.
Yeah.
All right.
I was called that actually just yesterday.
Oh, good for you.
Thank you. It's been a while.
Welcome to the club. All right, let's see who this is, and then we're going to call it a night. Hey, you're on the air. Who's this, and where are you calling from?
Hey.
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 Dr. Cole.
Dr. John Cole.
Who?
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 How's it going, Doc?
How you doing, Doc?
Hey, going good. I was kind of waiting to see if anybody from FUE Europe was going to ring in. And said, well, they got an interesting show and some pretty good callers. So, I felt like I want to throw in a few cents on some of these calls. They're really good callers tonight.
All right,
really good guys.
Let's hear what you got to say. And by the way, we had a caller, one of your patients called in, and we talked about FUE Europe and the IHRS involvement. And I think it was the guy that, I forget his name, but he used to call in. He called in a few months ago.
Talk about his procedure, I think?
Louis.
Yeah.
Louis.
Yeah.
I think it was Louis. Yeah, but he was our first caller. He was our first caller tonight, and we talked extensively about FUE Europe, and Spencer and I both put in our 2 cents about what we think it represents, and how we're excited.
Yeah, we're fortunate to have you guys on board, and a lot of what you talked about was trying to get the message out there to patients and trying to make sure doctors are doing good work and trying to stop a lot of this bad work that's going on, and this collaboration between all you guys, not just the IHRS, but some of the other guys too, like Bola and Marco and Ludger, and all their forums and specs, and of course you two. I think they're the two biggest players in the field. It's just going to be huge for patients. It's going to be huge for doctors, and I'm just thrilled to have this what I call as an NBA All-Star team put together. To help drive this field.
I just hope that there are doctors out there that do not allow politics to get involved and interfere with, their ability to participate and be a part of this, because, this can really be a game changer, and it could, they could be involved in something that's really great. It's one thing to go to an ISHRS conference, and I think that they've done the best that they can do over the years. And in some cases, there's a lot of things I think they could have done differently, and sadly, they're in the position that they are in right now, as well as the field is in right now, because of some really, I think, fearful, poor judgment calls on the part of some people who are really, in my view, unqualified to make that calls. And those calls affected the lives of thousands of patients.
Absolutely.
Yeah. A lot of the leadership is, they run practices that aren't really successful. And then they come in and try to run a big organization like this, and they bring the same dysfunctional work ethic and policies and principles to the ISHRS, and it just puts the whole organization in a standstill. And they get to the point where they don't make decisions in a timely fashion, but when they do make decisions, it's a reactionary decision, and it's usually the wrong decision, and then they wind up spending a year or so trying to undo the mess that they created from making the wrong decision. But having said that, we're moving in a positive direction with what we're doing. And, you say get the politics out, but it seems that, especially in the IHRS, it's always the politics that gets in the way, even though they say, don't be so political.
Yes, I think.
No, we're not planning to run this like a political organization. It's a business, and we're in the business of improving lives. And we got a great group of guys on board, and certainly you guys add to what we're trying to accomplish. Couldn't do it without you, that's for sure.
Well,
I'm glad to be a part of it.
I appreciate that. I'm looking forward to it. And again, I really hope that the guys who are now, and you mentioned somebody in the group that are saying, that this is just a political move. I just hope they open their eyes, because there's a real opportunity for everybody, including the ISHRS. And I'm telling you, Doc, I'm not kidding you. You're part of what we do. You're part of the IHRS, and there are other doctors who are part of what we do. But for the majority of guys out there, I give it less than 36 months before some of these guys are selling, pocket combs on the 6 train. They will not be able to book any surgeries. And they are essentially digging their own graves by allowing a lot of the politics to interfere with really the business at hand, and that is getting the right message out to the consumer, forgetting about, who gets the credit for that message. And that's a big problem. The ISHRS, anyway, I don't want to continue to get into it, but let's just hope that everyone can come to the table and we can make this happen in a way that is going to benefit everybody.
Yeah, exactly. And I agree. We don't really want to spend too much time on the IHRS. And yes, the door has to be open. the ISHRS is not their society. It's our society. But yet there's a handful of guys that choose to run it as if it's their own little pet baby. And they forget about the rest of the people out there. And it's not only that they make bad decisions, they don't necessarily arm themselves and their attendees with the tools and the current technology that they need. For example, in 2015, we had very few talks on FUE, yet FUE was the future.
Right.
And because we had a strip surgeon as the program chair, the whole meeting centered around strip surgery.
Right.
So, you just can't grow and not take care, especially of your new young physicians that are not doing strips. They never learned how to do it.
And they also can't alienate physicians who are really, like yourself and other physicians who are really, some of the real leading minds in the field. And also, I think it's a really bad idea to alienate the guys who really, truly have their thumb on the pulse of the industry that they make a living from. Because these guys don't.
Absolutely. Oh, yeah. In 2015, they made a real mess with Corey Erdogan and Jose Lorenzo and Bijan Faraduni, and these guys went out and started their own organization.
Right.
And they had a very successful meeting in Lisbon. And I think they had 130 attendees plus their faculty.
Yeah.
So that's a pretty solid meeting for an organization that's only been around for 2.5 years.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So
at any rate,
yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, you shared a link today with this doctor from Dr. Oz, and this guy's doing split mini grafts, and that's really a surgery that was born sometime in the 80s, pretty much died in the mid 90s. So I can't imagine that a guy would be doing that today.
Well, this is actually one of the disciples of this person. So this is a young woman who performed this surgery. I mean, young. I mean, maybe she's 35, 36 years old. And, she's standing there saying, asking for this guy's opinion about his experience. And this poor schmuck doesn't know what the hell's going on.
He has nothing to compare it to. He has no idea what he's talking about. And just to add to this, this person is one of 3 that I know of in that immediate geographic area. They all have some sort of historical link to each other as far as their the way they do things, and they all do the same thing that you're just talking about, Dr. Cole, with the split mini grafts and a multi-blade scalpel.
Yeah, you just can't get a good result that way. And, you were talking about, well, how should I manage that case? And having managed that type of case over the years, I can tell you, you can't FUE those grafts out. And the reason is that, you know what an onion looks like?
Mm-hmm.
You got all the stalks coming out of the ground, and they're all kind of tight together.
Yeah.
But then you dig down below it, and it's a big ball.
Yep.
So what happens in those split mini grafts is below the skin, you have this huge ball, and it's made up of, it could be 20, 30 hair follicles in there. It's probably at least 15, and then they're in a ball. So if you try to go in and FUE that out, you can't. You literally have to turn something like an 18-gauge needle or a 20-gauge needle into a small scalpel, and you have to dissect around that. Then you pop it out, and then you can dissect those grafts out. You can actually get an excellent yield out of that type graft, but then you have to put a suture in the wound. And that area of the scalp heals fantastic, so it works quite well. But you also brought up something about, hey, we probably don't want to take out grafts like that, and you don't, because anytime you have to take out grafts, you're going to lose something, and when you FUE out grafts, you get about a 70% return. So it's like going to Europe and changing a dollar into euros. You never get a dollar's worth of euros. They're always going to take a percentage. But in this case, it's more like 30% you're going to lose. So anytime you can leave grafts, you leave them. But if they're right on the hairline, sometimes you have to come up with clever ways to get rid of them.
Right.
And move them up. But and then you had an interesting caller who added dutasteride, and then he saw a sudden shed. And Joe, I think you hit on it. It could be one of two things. He could be having an acceleration of hair loss, and it could be that the dutasteride is working. You know, what happens in androgenic alopecia is you have a much higher percentage of telogen hairs, the resting hair. And it's the telogen phase where inflammatory cells come in and they start attacking the stem cells. So over a prolonged period of time, this inflammation, just like arthritis, wears out a joint, it wears out the stem cells in the follicle, and once the hair goes into the resting phase, eventually there are no stem cells to reinitiate the next cycle. So when you start something that induces anagen, that's really anti-aging medicine, because we're keeping these hair follicles in the active growing phase. But of course, the initial phase is shedding. So you're gonna push out those resting follicles, and you're gonna get a new hair coming in behind it. And the objective in anti-aging medicine is to try to keep those hair follicles in the active growing phase as long as possible. You know, there's a study by the House of Lords, I think in 2011, where they predicted that children born then would, you know, the women would live to like 96 and the men to like 94 or 5. And the hair follicle is just not designed to live that long. So the sooner we get people on anti-aging medicine, the better.
So you mean that the fact that I've been on finasteride for over 20 years, that I'm going to have a longer life, and that's why I look so young?
I believe that you have younger hair. And, you know, if you start when you're 89, when you turn 95, you know, your hair is going to look 89.
Right.
But the fact you've been on it for 20 years, hopefully when you're 90, you'll look more like you're 45, 50. That's the objective.
That'd be great. If I make it to 90, that'd be awesome.
Right.
Doesn't work for me since all my hair is transplanted.
And you're a classic example of you left the plugs in place, right, Joe?
Yeah.
And they work
exactly.
for you. They work great for you.
Yeah,
So,
they had volume and bounce, and gives me this lovely coif up front that everyone's complimenting me on.
That's right.
Absolutely. Yep. And the only other thing I wanted to add was topical finasteride. You know, we started diving into that back in Italy, I guess it's going to be probably a year and a half ago. And we're just not seeing side effects from it. And the growth, the hair growth from topical finasteride was just hands down better than anything I ever saw from the oral version without the side effects.
Now, were you using the Pharmacia Pirati mixture?
You're talking about the one that up in Milan?
Yeah, from Morrow.
Yeah, from Morrow.
Yeah.
You know, I've looked at that. You know, he uses a 2% paste. I'm not sure how well people like the paste, but I have played with that. The one that I used primarily was a liquid.
Yeah, well, that's why they started out was with a liquid, and then they also had a foam that they played around with. But it was but yeah, the paste is the latest incarnation. I've not had a lot of people report back to me on that one, but it's the liquid formulation that I've got more experience with, and I can't say that I've noticed the same that you were noticing with I think you and Chiara did a study, Dr. Encelaco, but I can say that of all the formulations I've seen in person and through people submitting results to me, just saying, hey, look what I'm doing, that it seems to be one of the better topicals out there. I can't say as far as oral goes that it's better, but I mean that's your observation, and I can't dispute it. But
I never saw results. I mean, just consistent results, one after the other. You know, on oral finasteride, the primary response is your hair loss slows down. You know, if you combine it with minoxidil, you get a little bit better response. But, you know, the number of patients I saw who grew back in, I could count on one hand. But the number of patients I've seen with the topical finasteride, you know, I can already count on two hands.
Well, that's interesting. No, that's awesome to hear. And the great thing is that, at least for the European patients, it's fairly simple to get a hold of, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because through the EU, they have a system. It's kind of like in the States where you have that e-prescription set up. Isn't that right?
Well, you have to have a prescription, and your doctor has to write it, and you know they can't send it to the USA, not legally.
Right.
I don't think they can send it to any other country legally, but I can go and get it and I can give it to a patient, I believe, but I can't sell it to a patient.
Well, in the EU, they can sell it to other countries in the EU because I'm dealing with plenty of people that order it themselves.
Yeah.
And then, of course, clinics carry it themselves as well, including some of the ones I work with in Europe. So that's the great thing is that if you're in Europe, it's fairly easy to get. You just go to the website, contact them through the phone number, and they'll ask you to fax the prescription from wherever your doctor is in the EU. But unfortunately, outside of Europe, it's not available.
Well,
as far as I know,
Dow compounds a topical finasteride. There's a few other people that are doing it, but I don't think we've hit on the exact formula that's coming out of Rome. That solution in Rome is just fantastic.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping that Kiara is going to give me the formula, and the pharmacist will give it to me. And my daughter's a pharmacist, so we've been working on setting up a compounding operation for her, not for me, but for her. And hopefully we'll have something soon. But Dow currently manufactures one, not through Burke Pharmaceuticals, but through a subsidiary that he works through. But the only problem I see really with the topical finasteride in the U.S. is they charge way too much money. You can get a topical finasteride in Europe for 20, 30 euros. And here you're going to spend $50 and then plus shipping. And it just really, it becomes astronomically impractical to some individuals from a financial perspective.
But the reality is there are guys out there. While it is, there's a major cost to it. There's plenty of guys out there who would prefer to somehow find that money, spend that money, and then risk the possibility of adverse side effects. The caller that called in before, who's been deliberating for 3 years on whether or not to take this drug, would probably pay dearly to have the opportunity to give finasteride a try with a very minimal risk of side effects, or as you say, zero side effects.
Well, we're just not seeing them.
Yeah.
And I've only had one patient complain of side effects. He didn't get the script through me. He got it through online.
Right.
And he had side effects within about a week. But as the caller did mention, in the oral finasteride 1 milligram studies by Merck, around 2.2% of individuals had sexual dysfunction on the placebo. So there's always going to be a placebo.
There was less. The original trial, there was about a 0.5 discrepancy. And on the second trial, there was about a 1.5% discrepancy between the placebo and the drug. So that's the way it is. Hey, Dr. Cole, listen, we got to call it tonight, but I really appreciate you taking the time to call in and adding your valuable insight, as always. And I'm glad that we are now all working together. And I saw what was happening in the chat room, some of the forum guys and the Italian forum guys and the German forum guys and all of the doctors who really want to see something good happen in the coming years, coming together to make this happen. So I'm excited about it.
All right.
Absolutely.
You guys keep up the good work. I really enjoyed the show tonight.
All right, Doc.
All right,
Listen,
thanks for calling.
Take care.
Okay.
Okay, bye-bye.
Be good, guys. Bye.
Guys are on hold. I'm sorry. I cannot take any more calls. I am starving.
Me too. Bye.
Yeah. So call in next time. Next time is Friday. We do the live show at 2 p.m. Pacific time, 5 p.m. Eastern time, and 10 p.m. Greenwich Mean Time.
Yes.
And that is next Friday, which is like in 3 days. We've been extremely consistent. And you can, by the way, thank Joe for the show tonight, because I wrote him earlier and I said, look, dude, I am not in the fucking mood to do this tonight. I got some things I want to take care of. And he's like,
the show must go on.
He's like, we got to do it. And I said, okay, we'll make it happen. Guys, thank you so much for taking the time to call in. Some great calls tonight. I want to give out Joe's website, which is hairtransplantmentor.com. And I think Joe might want to talk a little bit about what a lot of people are confused about what Joe does exactly. And Jesus, I'm confused, for crying out loud.
Well, that's because you didn't even want to do the show tonight.
That's true.
So, of course. No, I just, Yeah, it seems I've had some people ask, and some people think I'm just making YouTube videos and talk about docs, and that's not what I do. And for some of you that aren't aware, I do have my website, which Spencer just mentioned, hairtransplantmentor.com, and on that website I have primarily information about procedures, information about things that are affecting men and women with regards to hair loss across the board. I also have a very large, I think the most comprehensive hair loss and hair transplant glossary on the web that I wrote myself. It's very time intensive. But the other thing I do is I work with clinics, and it's not purely in a marketing sense. In fact, a lot of what I do has nothing to do with marketing, and more rather has to do with, you could call it business consulting. I work with clinics to help them deal with their patients in a more, I don't want to say efficient manner, but you could say a more empathetic manner, understanding the patients better so that ultimately they have a long-term improvement for their practice, which does eventually lead to more patients coming in. Because I'm one that believes that when you treat the patient right from beginning to end and then afterwards, they're more likely to tell other people, they're more likely to be happy with the result, and there's so much more that goes along with that. And so that's what I do. I work with clinics. I do help them with their message and getting it out for marketing. I do promote clinics based on parameters that I set forth, one of which is being a member of the International Alliance of Hair Restoration Surgeons, IAHRS. I think that's a solid baseline for whom I choose to work with, because if you don't have standards, then what else do you have? And I think that's important. But I wanted to get that out there because a lot of people, not a lot, but I've had several questions or comments about what it is I do, and I felt it was necessary to kind of explain that.
Well, and I appreciate that, and I'm not even going to explain what I do. If you guys haven't figured it out by now, I mean, there's so many, like I said, making a difference in this world is sadly something that just, can annoy the shit out of people. And if you're making a difference, if you're getting shit, however you're getting shit, if you're misunderstood, like I have been, even in like the ISHRS, there are still doctors in that organization who believe that I am somehow just a marketing person of sorts. What they forget is that, and I hate to keep repeating this if I said this already today, but there is not a human on this planet who has written about hair transplant surgery that has been read more, that has had more eyeballs on their work than me. And there's not a person in the IAHRS or the ISHRS or who's writing articles and being published and all the shit that they do and writing textbooks. No one can say that. And, they kind of forget all of these things. And they forget what we've built here over the years. And they looked at the IHRS as some sort of a adversarial, competitive, just a business, just a market, a way to market doctors. And that is not why it was started. Sadly, even some doctors in the IHRS are like, oh, I'm glad I'm accepted. Now I can market myself. And that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But your contributions, once you are accepted, the fact that you are part of what we do helps us to get this message out. And the fact that you guys support Surgery is a Last Resort, Truth in Advertising, and everything that we talk about on this broadcast, and I talk about everything that I write, I think that really helps to set a different level of standard that Joe doesn't talk much about. But, that is a standard that a lot of people don't really understand. That's not just, these are good doctors, they're doing good, consistent work. That's great. You can't come on board unless you agree with what I have to say, unless you agree with my stance, unless you're willing to take a hit once in a while when I tell a patient who calls in to ask about surgery not to have surgery.
Yeah.
Anyway, enough of my rant. Baldtruthtalk.com is the way.
Take two.
Yeah. Take two. BaldTruthTalk.com is our message forum, but again, it's a message forum, guys. We are lucky to have the most trafficked message forum in the world when it comes to surgical hair restoration and hair loss with no back end, and that is verifiable for those of you who are tuning in for the first time, maybe from another part of the world, who want to take a look at that. But it's still a message forum, guys. It's not the gospel. Most of the information on that forum, as all forums, come from anonymous sources. So, guys, please be careful when you're doing your research. TheBaldTruth.com for archives of this broadcast. GFQLive.tv or Guys from Queens Network. Thank you for syndicating this program. iHeartRadio, iTunes Radio, Stitcher Radio. Thanks for the syndication. Guys who are watching us on the Roku boxes, give us a good review. Would certainly appreciate that. And I guess that's it. IHRS.org, if you're considering surgical hair restoration, check out the International Alliance of Hair Restoration Surgeons. That's IAHRS.org. Until next time, be strong, God bless, and thank you so much for listening.
Thank you very much. I'm sorry for any inconvenience you may have been put to prior to the program, and I'm glad you enjoyed it. And if you could now leave by the exits at the rear, that'd be splendid. Thank you. Good night.
I always hear a lot of guys calling in, and they're always down and out about their haircuts.
Sure.
I lost my hair when I was 16 to 17 years old.
That's heavy.
Oh, man, I'm sorry to hear that.
No, it's all good, man. And the funny thing